Ukraine's hope for victory faded in the face of waning Western support and Putin's relentless war machine. Ukrainian servicemen near the frontline town of Marinka in the Donetsk region. CNN. A year ago, resolute President Volodymyr Zelensky traveled direct from the battlefield of Bakhmut to address the U.S. Congress and meet with President Joe Biden. He was feted as a hero. Ukrainians' determination to resist Russian aggression met with strong bipartisan backing in Washington. A year on, the outlook looks much grimmer. A long-anticipated Ukrainian offensive in the south has made scant progress. Russia appears to have weathered international sanctions for now and has converted its economy into a war machine. The Russian way of war, absorbing hideous losses of men and material, but throwing yet more into the fight, has blunted the Ukrainian military's tactical and technological edges, as its top general admitted in the candid essay last month. The mood in Moscow seems grimly determined. The goals of the special military operation will be achieved, and the fighting will continue until they are. As the long front line becomes ever more calcified, the Kremlin senses the greater skepticism among Kiev's Western backers that Ukraine can recover the 17% of its territory still occupied by Russian forces. Russian President Vladimir Putin is releasing the much more partisan atmosphere in Washington, where many in the Republican Party are questioning the purpose of sending Ukraine another $61 billion worth of aid as requested by the Biden administration, assessing that it will achieve little on the battlefield. At his first year-end news conference since the conflict began, Putin scoped Ukraine produced almost nothing today. Everything is coming from the West, but the free stuff is going to run out someday, and it seems it already is. Russia's President Vladimir Putin is relishing the more partisan attitude in Washington. At the same time, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban blocked the $55 billion EU package of financial aid for Ukraine, prompting one German politician to say that it was like having Putin himself sitting at the table. That jeopardized government sending on everything from salaries to hospitals. Zelensky, who by his own recent admission is retired, has an ever harder job as Ukraine's chief salesman, with the event in the Middle East diverting attention from Ukraine as the number one international crisis. On the first anniversary of the invasion, he predicted that 2023 will be the year of our victory. He is unlikely to make the same optimistic forecast for the coming year. As December came to the close, Ukraine suffers the biggest Russian air attack since the start of the full-scale invasion. Russia fired 158 drones and missiles, including hypersonic Kinzhals, at targets across Ukraine on Friday, killing at least 18 people and injuring scores more. Zelensky said that Russia used nearly every type of weapon in its arsenal in the strike. Russia is not without its own vulnerabilities, but they are more long-term. The conflict has exacerbated its geographic crisis through emigration and battlefield losses. Nearly 750,000 people left Russia in 2022. Analysts expect an even higher number will have voted with their feet this year. Labor shortages are stocking rising wages and therefore inflation. Evading sanctions and maintaining industrial production comes at a price, with much of that production now devoted to replacing a stunning battlefield losses and the budget deficit exploding accordingly. The long-term prognosis for the Russian economy is grim, and that may be Putin's most fundamental legacy. But as the economist John Maynard Keynes once said, in the long run, we are all dead. In the short term, Putin appears unassailable. Re-election in March is the formality the Kremlin has already acknowledged as much. Contrast that with the US, where a February year of campaigning might end with Donald Trump preparing for his second term. That is Kiev's nightmare and Moscow's dream. The deeply partisan mood in Congress has scuppered the Biden's administration's request for further aid for Kiev. Currently allocated funds for military equipment are nearly drained. One Democratic Senator, Chris Murphy, said starkly, "We are about to abandon Ukraine." The mantra in Western capitals of supporting Ukraine has been as long as it takes, but standing next to Zelensky this month, Biden said the US would support Ukraine as long as we can. Battlefield slog. While the global metrics for Ukraine deteriorate, so the front lines offer little cheer. The much anticipated Ukrainian counteroffensive launches in June was meant to display the superiority of NATO's strategy of combined arms warfare drilled into nearly minted Ukrainian brigades who are trained in muddy fields in Germany, but it was alien to Ukrainian military culture and was not matched by superiority in the skies. What should have been a dash south to the Black Sea became a quagmire in dense minefield, with Western armor picked up from the air by Russian drones and aviation. Ukrainian units took almost 200 square kilometers of territory over 6 months. The goals of reaching the coastline, Crimea, and splitting Russian forces in the south remains in distant dream. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky is by his own admission tired. With the front line frozen, Kiev's intelligence agency have turned it to more speculator attacks, sinking a Russian landing ship in Crimea this week and even sabotaging railway lines as far as the Russian Far East. Success in the Black Sea has allowed for relatively safe passage for merchant ships, despite Moscow abandoning a UN-brokered deal last summer. However, despite their audacity, such operations won't alter the fundamental balance of the conflict. Jaluzny put it bluntly, the level of our technological development today has put both us and our enemies in the stupor. The use of surveillance and strike drones deprive both sides of the element of surprise within the confines of the battlefield. The simple fact is that we see everything the enemy is doing, and they are everything we are doing. But the Russians' vast reserves of manpower and hardware, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu boasted that he could raise 25 million men if necessary, mean that they can continue burgeoning the smaller Ukrainian military, making incremental gains at enormous cost. So it was around Bakhmut last winter. Perhaps the same will apply to the ruined Donetsk town of Avdiivka in the next few weeks. The pool of military recruits in Ukraine has substantially substantially shrunk. Battlefield losses have deprived the military of tens of thousands of experienced soldiers and mid-ranked officers. Sooner or later, we are going to find that we simply don't have enough people to fight. Jaluzny told The Economist in November. The arrival of F-16 fighter jet in the spring will undoubtedly help the Ukrainian Air Force challenge Russian combat planes and support their own ground forces, but they will be no silver bullet. Basic training is one thing, flying into the teeth of Russia air defense is another. The same would apply even if the US agrees to supply longer range army tactical missile systems to Ukraine. The UK supplied Storm Shadow missiles have helped target the Russian rear. In any event, the paralysis over funding has blocked the pipeline of US weaponry, and Europe does not have the capacity to fill the gap. Some leading analysts conclude it's time for clear-eyed reassessment. Ukrainian and the West are on the unsustainable trajectory, one characterized by the glaring mismatch between ends and the available means, write Richard Haas and Charles Kupchan in Foreign Affairs. Ukrainians' goal of recovering all its territory is out of reach, they said bluntly. Best where we are looks at best like a costly deadlock. They recommend that Ukraine shift to the defensive posture in 2024 to stem losses, which would shore up Western support by demonstrating that Kiev has the workable strategy aimed at attainable goals. The Russian military, which has by and large proved inept in offensive operations, would thereby find it even more difficult to take ground. To others, such a shift would essentially reward aggression, enabling Russia to pause and regroup, with potentially dangerous consequences for others in Russia's near abroad. It would also sending a wrong message about U.S. commitment to other allies such as Taiwan and its non-starter politically in Kiev. Ukrainian soldiers fire artillery towards the Russian positions to support frontline troops in the direction of Avdiivka, Donetsk Oblast. Biden said during Zelensky's visit that Putin is banking on the United States failing to deliver for Ukraine. We must prove him wrong. It smacked of desperation. Haas and Kupchan say Ukraine would be wise to devote incoming resources to its long-term security and prosperity instead of expanding it on the battlefield for little gain. There are certainly signs of tensions within Ukrainian society as the conflict nears its secondary anniversary and the economy struggled to start growing again. After shrinking by one-third, the longer several million Ukrainians live elsewhere in Europe, the less likely they are to come back. For now, Zelensky and his inner circle showed no sign of compromise. Zelensky won countenance a truce or negotiations. For us, it would mean leaving this wood open for future generations, he told Time in November, instead of bawling some unlikely collapse in morale on either side. The same towns and villages destroyed over the last 2 years will still be fought over in the next. Ukrainians will have the means to survive, but not to win.